Today, Bitcoin notches yet another new all-time high, this time above $123,000. Crypto Week kicks off on Capitol Hill, where the House will debate a series of crypto-related bills, and Pantera's Cosmo Jiang discusses the growing trend of corporate crypto treasuries. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Brandon Gomez. Bitcoin hit another new record to kick off the week. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin traded close to $120,000, but briefly crossed $123,000 this morning, notching a new record. Ether climbed more than 0.5% to $3,000, and XRP rose nearly 4%. The fresh high for Bitcoin comes amid strong ETF inflows and moves by U.S. lawmakers aimed at clearer regulation for the industry. Professional Capital Management founder and CEO Anthony Pompliano joined CNBC's Squawk Box to discuss some of the factors that helped Bitcoin jump to new records.
I think that Wall Street's full undivided attention now is on Bitcoin. And really, there's three things that drove this move. The first is that there's been record inflows into the ETFs. So last Thursday, 1.2 billion, second highest day. Those ETFs now collectively have over 140 billion. BlackRock's fund is now almost $90 billion in about a year. They went from not having a Bitcoin ETF to now they have a top 20 largest ETF in the world. So there's a lot of inflows there. Second thing is the options expired at the end of Q2. And so all that downward pressure on Bitcoin obviously goes away. That helps kind of like a beach ball getting put underneath the water, right? Obviously it can pop back up. And then the third thing is that there was a lot of short sellers, and you started to see that build up. And as they got blown out, as Bitcoin ran, you get into this price discovery phase. And if you go back to November, we went from 70,000 to 90,000 in about 2 to 3 weeks. And 70,000 was a new all-time high. What we're watching now is we broke through that $110,000 range. That was the previous all-time high. I don't know if it goes to 140, but it sure is going to make a big move here because you are in a true price discovery phase.
Okay, let's talk about the top stories. Crypto Week on Capitol Hill kicks off today. The House of Representatives picked the week's nickname as the lower chamber prepares to debate 3 major crypto bills. The Clarity Act, aimed at establishing a clear regulatory framework for crypto, the Genius Act, stablecoin regulation bill, which the Senate passed last month, and the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, proposed legislation aimed at preventing the Fed from issuing a retail central bank digital currency. The goal of that bill? To limit potential government surveillance capabilities. Meantime, some House Democrats have chosen their own nickname for this week, Anti-Crypto Corruption Week. Democrats on the House Financial Services Committee pointed to President Trump's, quote, meme coin scam. Ranking member Maxine Waters and other committee Democrats are calling on lawmakers to vote no on the Clarity and Genius Acts, which they claim give the president the green light to continue crypto dealings in his name. Next, Jeremy Allaire, co-founder and CEO of stablecoin issuer Circle, joined CNBC's Money Movers this morning to discuss progress for stablecoin legislation in the U.S. and his company's success since going public last month.
It's been an exciting time, obviously, for what we do. I think just overall the awareness about stablecoins, the role that they can play, major institutions really making it clear that this is going to be a key part of the way money moves in the world. And as the leading regulated stablecoin network in the world, we're I think in a really we're in a great place to build on that. And this is a moment where it's been a long time since you've actually had an upgrade to the financial system, to the very nature of what electronic money is, and digital currency really represents that. And we're, as I like to say, still in the very early days of this. And so, we think about, just like Treasury Secretary Bessent talks about trillions of dollars of stablecoins in the coming years, major investment banks and others, looking at trillions of dollars of stablecoins. We can imagine a world where, stablecoin money is the primary way that transactions happen on the internet, and that's what we're going after.
Shares of Circle have rocketed more than 530% since its initial public offering on June 5th, as investors prepare for the potential of stablecoin regulation in the U.S. Back to Trump's meme coin as we round out the top stories, crypto billionaire Justin Sun is buying another $100 million worth of that meme coin, doubling his total known stake of digital coins tied to the president. The founder of the Tron blockchain made the announcement on X last week, adding that the Trump-linked digital coins will soon be tradable on Tron. Sun, who has rapidly emerged as one of the Trump crypto ecosystem's biggest whales, is currently working to resolve a civil fraud case with the SEC. Back in 2023, the agency charged Sun and his companies for alleged fraud and other securities law violations. All right, turning to crypto treasuries for our main story. Earlier this month, Pantera Capital, an investment firm focused on crypto and blockchain technology, launched a new fund focused on digital asset treasury-related investments. Crypto World's Tanay Makil spoke with Pantera's Cosmo Jiang about crypto treasury reserve strategies in general.
Cosmo, thank you so much for joining me on Crypto World today. Let's talk Bitmine. They made a splash last week when they said that they're going to continue their Bitcoin mining operations, but they're going to pivot to make ETH their primary focus for their primary asset for their treasury. Pantera did back this deal. They also backed, I believe, 21 and DeFi Development Corp. Talk about Bitmine. Why?
Yeah, look, thank you for having me. This is it's a really exciting time to be talking about these companies. I think there's a couple points to make here, which is that we are seeing the emergence of a new category of companies, and it's really rare to find oneself at the onset of that. And so we're pretty fortunate to have really leaned in early as investors in this space of digital asset treasuries, and now getting the recognition for some of these investments in the public markets. As we think about why we wanted to participate in these in particular, we really like, as investors in blockchain assets for some time, we are big proponents of the large blockchains like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, and like Solana. And it's always made sense to us that there could be, if MicroStrategy can succeed in having that playbook in Bitcoin, there can be others as well. And we want to back the best teams that are doing that.
How many companies would you say you've spoken with in the last couple of months that are pursuing this type of treasury strategy operation? What is it that you're looking for, and what are the types of things you're filtering out?
Yeah, I mean, look, when we started investing this back in April, at the time, it was definitely not a foregone conclusion that any of this would work, right? We'd seen MicroStrategy work for a few years in the US, and then we saw Metaplanet be a great success in Japan, and there are a few others across the world, but none that really took off in a very big way. And so when we were first approached by a Solana team that was looking to do something like MicroStrategy was doing, but except a Bitcoin, they're doing it with Solana, I thought that was very interesting. As a firm, we've been very excited and bullish on Solana's prospects as a large generalized contract blockchain that others will use. And so Solana has actually been the second largest position at Pantera for a long time, just behind Bitcoin. And so when someone came to us saying we're going to tap the U.S. capital markets, the excitement, the creativity, the financial engineering that exists in the U.S. in tandem with pairing that with Solana, a token that we are very excited about on an underlying basis, we thought, look, this is a really interesting time to try to lean in and see if this experiment works, this experiment of creating additional digital asset treasuries beyond just MicroStrategy. And it worked. To our pleasant surprise, based on our underwriting played out. And then that's why we also leaned in with Cantor Equity Partners when Cantor approached us about having the Tether and SoftBank collective come together to create a competitive MicroStrategy. I just thought, wow, that makes a lot of sense, just as much sense as the Solana loan that we just backed. And so we really helped anchor that deal as an outside investor. And then from there, it just became this explosion, this almost Big Bang-like event where all of a sudden everyone saw the success of DeFi Dev Corp, of Cantor Equity Partners, or 21 as it will be renamed. And really a lot of teams started coming to market. And so it's become a much larger and more ebullient trend than perhaps I might have thought when we first started. In the last 3 months, I've now taken 70 to 80 pitches of teams trying to do this. Now, naturally, when you see something like that, it's very normal or very reasonable to say that, excess returns invites competition. Competition drives down returns. And so eventually there will be some successes that I think are really big outcomes, but there will also be plenty of failures, just like there is with any startup universe, as there is always creative destruction. And so of those 70 pitches, we've done now 6 investments in the space that we're all pretty excited about, and we're continuing to think about and evaluate more.
How far down the spectrum of crypto assets do you see this going? Do you see it moving to an XRP or a Dogecoin? When I talk to a lot of institutional type investors, they say we're not really interested in any cryptocurrencies beyond the first 3, Bitcoin, ETH, Solana. So how far do you see this going?
Yeah, it's a great question and something that we see a lot, especially because I do think in the future there, just like with any industry, it's not a pure monopoly, and so I do think there will be two or three Bitcoin-based digital asset treasury companies. There'll be two or three ETH DATs. There will be two or three Solana DATs, and I think that's probably how it all shakes out. Today, there's a lot more than that. I expect there to be many more that launched, and maybe not the leaders today will be the leaders of tomorrow. We'll see how that plays out. As we go down the token spectrum, though, as I think about what really works or why these work, you really have to have traditional investor buy-in, right? Institutional investor buy-in to get to scale. I think there are a lot of teams that are playing for different outcomes. Some teams are playing for that MicroStrategy-like outcome. There are some teams that are playing for a smaller outcome. I think for smaller outcomes, it doesn't matter as much, but like that's less interesting to us. For the bigger outcomes, you really need to hit certain thresholds of market cap before institutional investors take you seriously. In order to really tap the convertible debt market, you probably need $1 billion public float company. And when you think about that, there's really only so many tokens that can support $1 billion digital asset treasury company. If the token itself doesn't have a large market cap, it's not going to support it. And so when I think about that, it probably means you're looking at the top 10, 15 tokens that really have enough practical market cap to support something like this. And then from an acceptance perspective, a big part of the thesis here is that you have to have strong belief by a lot of people in the long-term trajectory of this token, not just from crypto natives, but from broader traditional investors. And there are only so many tokens that have that really broad appeal. Clearly, Bitcoin, Solana, and ETH do. There are certainly a few others that have very, very broad appeal, whether it's stuff like Ripple or Cardano or Doge that have just been around for so long that people know about them. That I think those have a shot at really making it. Obviously, less of a shot because they have less of a real. Many people don't believe that as much of a real long-term trajectory, but there's definitely possibility that because they have so much broad awareness that it could work.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We're back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.